All right, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Cool. Let me just pull up one more thing right now. All right, cool. Yeah, this call I wanted to generally just go over some project management stuff, present a solution, the Notion solution. But before I get into any of that, is there anything that you guys want to talk about first?
Not really.
No, I'm good with diving into the PM stuff.
Yeah, let's do it. Because I feel like it's one of the most important thing. So this was all brought up in an earlier call with Shane from Pocket Figment. And to kind of give you a little background on how we got to Notion, I knew we needed a project management solution, so we went back and forth a little bit about that. He talked about how he wanted to get a site going at icon.community, I think it was, or prep.community or something like that. And he was planning on putting something together that's sort of like a more community contributed documentation source that would go on the side of the current icon.dev site that we're all looking at, right? And just so we can create better docs ourselves and explain more about initiatives and not have to go through the foundation with PRs and stuff like that to be able to update docs, right? And so I also had a solution going that was based on Sphinx, and that's more for technical documentation, API docs. It's able to render inline comments and stuff like that from code, and then be able to display that as very like technical code documentation that's easy for developers to understand. And then it also gives you all kinds of markdown functionality and stuff like that. And it looks like this. And so I thought that this was going to be something cool, and this is a very widespread use of Sphinx, but we need sort of something that's in the middle of all of that. So like Shane was talking about doing his in WordPress, and then we talked about how what we can do in there is have all of the content from WordPress dynamically pulled up from GitHub by installing a Markdown plugin on WordPress, and then we can have the community contribute those docs and just point them and aggregate them all in one place on WordPress. I think that's a great idea. I think we can totally keep on doing that. But he also suggested this solution called Notion, which is sort of like, just to kind of summarize it from a high level, Notion is like kind of like Jira and Confluence wrapped up into one, if you've ever used those tools. But I put it together, and I just wanted to see how usable it was, and I just to kind of give a little bit more clarity on it. Like Jira is like a fantastic tool, and that was my first suggestion. I really thought that we should be getting on board with a professional solution like that. It's widely used. If you're not familiar with it, it's widely used all the way from like help desks and people who are doing you know, like large enterprise sort of like help desks and IT desks and things like that, to track like really fine-grained issues that way, all the way up to development teams and all that kind of stuff. It's very professional, but it's also got a learning curve. There's definitely, it's not easy to necessarily like jump in, and it's not really built for non-technical teams. And so that's why we started looking for other solutions, and that's how we got to Notion. So I know that there's other teams right now that are using Jira, and that is the tool. I'm almost you know, it's a much better tool in a lot of regards. But Notion is sort of giving me, I feel like, everything I sort of need. So just to give you a little bit like walkthrough of it, it's based on Notion, based on Markdown. So it's Markdown native. When you're writing things in here, it's all Markdown. So if I wanted to write like a heading or something like that, I can just do that. It supports all the common Markdown features, and it has this idea of pages. So when you go into something, I can copy and paste Markdown directly in here. And then I also have all kinds of extra functionality to do things like embed charts and link to things from Google Drive. So if I wanted to link to Google Drive in here, I just go like that. It would pop up with a flag that I can do that, and now I can link some content in there. And if I just wanted to, I already linked it to a folder before, and I exported my lucid chart diagrams for the network maps, and that's as easy as it is to get a network map like a lucid chart diagram embedded into a web page. And this is shit easy. Like, I've spent a lot of time on Confluence and Jira. I spent tons of money on getting a server implementation of that software. And this is not that easy to do in Confluence. So this is the equivalent of Confluence, if you've ever messed with that. But for Confluence, you would need to buy a plugin and do all this stuff to be able to embed content like this. With Notion, it easily integrates with Google Drive, a couple other things. I mean, you can sort of see it when you go into embed. It integrates with all of these different external resources so that you can easily just sort of embed whatever content you want inside of Notion. So that's really cool. This will get us to the point where we're now like, it's a better way of creating Markdown documentation and everything like that. But that's not the real power of Notion. Notion is really for project management. And so the extra feature that it brings is the ability to put in tables. And so I had this as like a little demo that I was showing one of my managers before, but you can also embed tables directly into here. So let me see. I'll just do a new page. So in here, if I wanted to embed a table, I can just do that, and now I've got a table. And this is to use the parlance of Notion, this is technically what they call a database right here. So every table is basically a database. And what's nice about that is that you can join different databases and you can have linked tables and stuff like that. So if I wanted to create like a list, like list 1, list 2, and then I had another table, I can link those 2 tables by doing something as simple as this. I gotta name this table over here. So, relation, and I can link these 2 tables just as easy as this. Now I've got a relation, and in here, there's a way, well, I think I did it backwards. So, and now I can link these 2 databases. So see how I've got thing 1 is linked to list 1, so on and so forth. That's the basic functionality of Notion right there, is with their tables. And because it has that functionality right there, you're able to build multiple databases like this and this to be able to represent tasks in different views. And so what I've got going on here is very similar to the functionality of Jira, in that, like, I have a table, it has different tasks inside of here that I can open up, and there's more areas for me to fill in more detail. This page right here is the same as a page from like right here. There's the same, like, entity itself. And so you have a lot of space to basically put down information that you want to track individual entries into each table, which would give you your task management kind of workflows. Then, like, you create the table right here, like all these like different headings and stuff like that show up in a new task just like this. if I want to create a new task, I just go to the bottom of the table and I just start a thing right here, and then I can open this up as a page and start filling it out. So it's pretty simple to use. I was able to get a good feeling about how to manipulate all these different aspects of things within like less than an hour, whereas with something like Jira, it's going to take a while. And that learning curve is really going to scare a lot of teams off. And so what I see in Notion really is like the main thing about it is that we need to have like all the teams in the same workflow management solution for this to actually get enough traction that we're all starting to contribute to it, right? It can't be like a Jira. I know that ICX Station, for instance, is using Jira, and that is the tool. But whether or not ICX Station and every other team is going to use Jira, that's a whole other question. And so Notion being free, Jira is not free. I think that at least for like the basic version, that this could be something that others can adopt, right? So yeah, I'll just walk a little bit through like our task flow management. So like we have this one table, it has tasks and bugs, and then we have another table over here for epics. And so that's how we can track like the more broad sort of initiatives that we're doing for our infrastructure automation. The main thing that I wanted to run by you guys though is the idea of how we're sort of going to use Notion as like a means to create like higher level groupings of teams and different groupings of the different initiatives that we're going to be doing. And so this is like the main thing that I wanted to run by you, is that this idea that we can form something like working groups. Working groups would be a collection of many teams. And so in this example right here, I've got this workspace in Notion called PREP organization, and I've got a table for teams. I started to lay that out right here. This is really, this is me just spitballing here and just sort of throwing together. This is all up for the community to approve and adopt and everything like that. I'm just really taking feedback during this meeting, but create a table. Here's where all the teams are going to sit. You can have web pages that go to individual teams. This is all a template right here. So to get started with something that looks pretty decent, we can form like a template that we can all kind of share. So we can have some common sort of branding, or different common sort of directories of different pages that we all expect different teams to be able to maintain, like the team directory, things like that. And then so there can be like a team site, and then underneath here, and then workspaces as well. So I don't know if I have this link. No, this is just back to my team site. But here's the teams. We can have working groups, create a working groups database. So this is a different table. It's joined to this teams table. And here I can have a number of different big working groups. And I think I mentioned this in the what is it called? I forget what chat that is, the think tank chat. So that if we have like different working groups, we have like a number of different categories. Like I thought of infrastructure, dApps, outreach, governance. Those are like the large overarching sort of groupings that we can have. But then underneath that, we can have different initiatives. And that would be more fine-grained. So like infrastructure is more than a working group. There's a number of different things that would fall underneath infrastructure, like infrastructure automation. That's mainly what my team is focused on. Security standards, security audit, DDoS protection, things like that. We're basically doing a little bit of all of these things. But that's sort of how we could start to split big categories up into smaller things like dApps. dApps is much larger. dApps is a working group that would share a lot of the same challenges that we'd want to have a lot of the teams be involved in together, but then split them off into individual initiatives that can be owned by individual teams. Like I think Russell, I took some of your suggestions in here in the initiatives and I just sort of pasted them in. We could figure this out later, you know, but like I figured for you guys, like you know, there'd be an initiative for dApps, so it'd be something like procurement, where we'd be trying to be relevant to what you're doing right now with the competition to suggest different dApps and stuff like that. That would be part of that initiative, right? And you can lead that initiative.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Do these link to like schedules as well? Maybe you're gonna get to that later.
Yeah, they do. Well, they link down into task management tables then. So the idea is that like a working group would have a number of initiatives, which would have a number of teams. And this is really like, this is an entity relationship diagram that we're all familiar with if you're doing relational database design and stuff like that. And so one working group for many initiatives, which many teams are part of. And then each initiative would link to an individual page that would then be something like this. And then to get to a calendar, you would just look at it at a different view. And in fact, I don't have due dates on here or anything like that. So this is all just created in the last couple days, really. But you can add a view that would be like a calendar. And here you can have, like, if I had due dates actually filled in on my last view, that they would populate on the calendar appropriately. So I can just test this.
Okay. No, that's perfect. Yeah. And then obviously, like internally, we can get to more fine-grained scheduling. But for the purpose of collaboration, I think this would be definitely enough.
Yeah. And you can make stuff that's public and private and link different tables so that you can have like a private task management queue that you don't want to show everybody, but it would link directly up with a more public overarching version that you're trying to show to the community and whatnot. So just a few other things. What's so cool about Notion, the thing that's the big sell, the thing that I'm all about right now is the fact that they put the Wicca and the documentation and all that kind of functionality that you were getting out of Confluence, if you're used to Jira and Confluence, it puts all of that all in one place. And so when you're clicking off different tasks or picking them off and you're making notes on your task, you're in the same system where you can then copy and paste or link that to content that you can that will then turn into documentation to share with the community. When you have like a workflow management tool like Trello or Asana, like I have that open in the background. You can see that down there. I've got a Trello board that we use for some stuff at Insight. But like the tasks that you solve there, once you click, and I'll just open it up. Once you solve a task, it's like it's done, you know. It's kind of like gone into the ether. You're not gonna go back and pick apart some comments from that and integrate it into documentation or anything like that. The fact that this also serves as a Wicca, and this is all I can to make this public. Like I've got this all public right now. But if I wanted to link to a task, I can easily do that inside of here. So if I'm going to do link the page, and then I got to get a good task to, let's say, like this would be linking to an epic, right? And there's my epic, and that this is the number of tasks that are in here, and then I can take notes on all this kind of stuff. And I can also have templates in here. So here's an epic template, and bam, that just starts to get me off in the right direction, you know? So everything is templatable. Everything is a template. Like as soon as you write a page, that page can then be turned into a template. So this task management right here, this table design with epics and tasks and everything like that, dashboards with all these different views that you can see right here, you can copy and paste this over and now, like it's not a problem. You just if I wanted to copy that. In fact, it's just as easy as this. I duplicate it, and then I can move it around into a different workspace. This would be its own workspace now, and now it's got like its own permissions that are going to be inherited by all the sub pages. But I just moved that from, I made this private, just like that, you know. And so then underneath here, I can put different other pages and stuff like that, or I can create a whole other private workspace. Okay, so I guess I just reached the limit of what I can do with my free version. But I paid for an account on another account. It's really cheap, by the way, as well. We should go over that. It is $4 per month. It's pretty reasonable. So we're probably going to need to upgrade at some point. I'm sure there's some advanced permissions and stuff like that. I'm not exactly sure what the, you know, what the difference is here. I mean, it obviously has to do with the amount of members and whatnot. But if you're planning on having most of your content public and you not trying to shift over your entire like internal task management system, then this is free because you just put it all as public. I think there's a limitation in the amount of workspaces, but besides that, you don't need the team features. Any questions? Anything specific?
No, I like it. Thanks for showing up.
Yeah,
I think this is pretty sweet. I'm pretty
I
excited.
mean, that's good. Like, it can be the best solution we can find.
I'm sorry?
It can be best solution we can find to be public for every peer app.
Yeah, I mean, it's all public right now. So I'm pretty sure I made this public here. Yeah, this is public right here. So, I mean, I guess the real question is do you guys like this idea of breaking down working groups into initiatives, into teams, and then individual pages to cover initiatives? What do you think of that?
I definitely like it. I mean, I think it's good to get the framework set up. I think actually, you know, populating it and everybody working, you know, full effort on all the items will probably begin after decentralization, which should be in a couple weeks. But I think it's a good structure to work on, and I think we definitely need, you know, something like this so that we're not all going in different directions, and hopefully, you know, majority of the teams can join in, because we'll be a lot more productive and a lot more efficient that way if we're all you know, contributing and at least talking. You know, we don't all have to work together on the same projects, but this will help prevent, you know, 20 teams from working on the exact same thing. I know that's like an extreme example, but yeah, it just helps, you know, put everything that everybody's doing, and then we can see, hey, what needs more work, who has those skill sets, and we can kind of, you know, manage as a group of peer reps.
Yeah, exactly. I think you just kind of covered all of it right there. That's the main thing. There's a lot of duplicated efforts. Like my team is really just focused on infrastructure automation, but hoping that like we're not automating everything into one click just for our own team. We're doing this so that other people can share our code and whatnot, you know. And so we'd be happy to take tasks from other teams and people suggest us things to do. I don't know if every team is going to want to have people telling them what to do. Obviously, that's probably not going to be the best thing to sort of have happen. But, you know, certainly at least gaining some observability over what other teams are doing so that we can tap into some of that work and help each other out and whatnot.
I mean, depending on which teams join from i6 station and Splen from Icon Nation, which has very much knowledge about Icon blockchain. So their knowledge helps a lot when you're stuck on something, because documentation and all whatever is not well in the documents by Icon.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
I mean, like, we l- we work around 1.5 months, which all with mostly with Ciplan back and forth asking stuff because it wasn't clear.
Yeah. Well, now at least we have a place where we can put all of that stuff, you know. Kind of gets lost in, well, Telegram's not the place. The forum is more of a place for discussions and whatnot. This was really just a place where we can put all of these little markdown notes and stuff like that. Like, to give you a little background on Notion as well, like this is gaining a lot of traction in the community. There's a lot of excitement about this tool. A lot of people are talking about how they're moving their whole life over into Notion, because really the fact that it links with your Google Drive and everything like that turns this into like a whole content management system. And so a little bit more background, there was a huge initiative at Stack Overflow a couple years ago to create a unified documentation source, sort of as like a best of collection of all of the different Stack Overflow posts, to create an authoritative resource for different technical topics like Git and whatnot, all the different subjects that come up in Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is a wealth of information, obviously, and they were trying to aggregate it into one place. That initiative failed, or they stopped it for some reason. But before they stopped it, they created thousands and thousands of pages of extremely good documentation and turned into like 10 or 20 different ebooks. And all of those ebooks were then transferred into Notion. And so Notion is now the home for all of Stack Overflow's documentation and all of that kind of stuff. People are writing whole books in Notion, basically, is what I'm trying to get across.
Was Notion suggested by Shane like 2 or 3 weeks ago, or is that something else? I remember Shane suggesting a tool for it.
Yeah, this is all coming from Shane, for sure. This is Shane. I'd never heard of Notion before Shane, and yeah, he got me tipped on to this.
Hey Rob, looks like you have to actually have access to Insight Icon to access this.
Yeah, so that's the next thing. So as soon as you send me your
I think
email,
you already granted.
Was that?
Sorry for interrupting. I think you already granted me access, but for everyone else, I just tried accessing from a different account, and yeah.
Yeah, I haven't given you access yet because you would be in here in the members. I don't know. I think, you know, what I did is I have 2 different accounts going on. I probably gave you access to my personal one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no
so
worries.
As far as like a branding perspective, like I don't know, right now it's all Insight Icon. This shouldn't be my team. You know, this should be off of a single icon shared account. So I can, to make it sort of team neutral, you know, so maybe I can start that one account that will be the overarching account that we invite everybody to. And then from there, people can manage their own private workspaces and stuff like that off of that one account.
Yeah, that seems to make sense. And then we can just link in, we should be able to link in stuff from our private account, right? I think you showed that.
Yeah. Yeah, you manage the permissions on a workspace level. So everybody would have access to this PREP organization. I've got like 3 things in here. You've seen the teams, working groups, initiatives. All of those come with their own databases. And then from there, we'd also have task management or WIKs on each different thing. So like in working groups, we create like a new page that would be like infrastructure. And then from there, I could have links to down into the different initiatives and whatnot, you know. So we could have like a little WIK that would describe here, this is what infrastructure is all about. These are the main teams, you know, just to kind of give like a launch point to get into the more finer grain details and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, if this is something, yeah, if you guys are about this, then I'll invite you, and then we'll just start blasting information on here before we make it public and really start evangelizing this to the whole community. It would be good to get a nice start with a small group of teams, like everybody on this call right now, and we start to craft this out and start to work out some of the kinks before we get everybody on board.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool.
Hey, this is BJ. Hey, Rob.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Thank you for the good work here. Also, you know, we're doing a lot of work on marketing, as you know. So could this be used for that purpose also?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the working groups
Mhm.
is outreach.
Uh-huh.
And so this is like, by the way, this is me just shooting from the hip as far as what teams are going to be part of what working group, right? So this is not authoritative by any stretch. Like, I know that I'm focused up, like, you know, this is where my team sits. You know, everybody else is free to sort of break it down into different initiatives and working groups as they see fit. So certainly within outreach, there would be marketing. You know, Rhizome's talked about we need to get some centralized branding, marketing sort of templates that everybody's able to use to, you know, create a unified branding structure and whatnot. You know, that would be part of a working group, and that would be like inside marketing templates, which would have its own initiative marketing templates. And then
Who's the contact person in Rhizome? Is anybody here? For marketing?
Brian is the contact person, and he was not able to make it to a family emergency.
What's his full name? Brian
Lee.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually just reached out to him about marketing templates because I needed, like, literally right before the call, because I need some stuff. So if you guys have any marketing stuff, if you can just ping me on Telegram. I need some clip art, like, ASAP. And that's all for you know, BJ, while you're here, that's all for marketing the icon panel for Blockchain Week. Didn't want to get you on.
Oh, okay. We don't have any of that.
Yeah, I don't have any real. I mean, I'm getting clip art from Google searches on icon, which is just not the right way to go. We need to have, you know, repositories and stuff like that. And it's going to be more than just like aggregating marketing material as well. It's also going to be working on different branding aspects, you know, making sure that there's enough templates that everybody can sort of use and stuff like that, you know. It's back to the repeated efforts. Like, I'm a technical team. Like, I'm on a technical team. We're not marketing focused. I don't want to be spending my time trying to teach myself different.
We could possibly help with that, Rob. We're building a blockchain marketing team ourselves. That's gonna be it's gonna be a combination of digital marketing people and also blockchain experts.
Great, that would be awesome. You guys should maybe lead this initiative or talk with Brian about, you know, how you guys want to divide duties, because it's, you know, this whole thing is supposed to highlight as well that different teams are really taking responsibility for certain aspects of development, you know, and we're not just sort of all going off in our own direction, you know. So and I'm not saying, you know, that, you know, there's the way that this is built right now is really lending itself to having different teams lead different initiatives, but we can have all kinds of flexibility in here. So, like,
of course,
you know, break it down into different aspects of initiatives and whatnot, you know.
This could be an exercise in decentralization too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, running a DAO is not about like having a whole bunch of different people do whatever they want. We still need observability, and people are asking right now about accountability with respect to the transparency of their budget and whatnot. And I think that's just one metric that people are really interested in, because it's like, yeah, we want to know where the money is, but it's really just a direct consequence of what tasks that you're taking on and how much resources you really need to be able to undertake those tasks, and and you know, tracking the progress of those different initiatives on a more fine grained level, you know, like Russell, the stuff that you're taking on is massive, you know, and the community, you know, is going to totally understand from a transparency perspective, but like this will give you another level of detail to be able to show exactly, you know, what's going on and the evolution of the whole entire that procurement process and whatnot.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, transparency is important, obviously. But then, as you said, it's also very important too that, you know, we're all working together, because we can all be doing great things on our own, but then, you know, and be transparent about it and show, hey, we're all doing great work. But, you know, if we work together, then that increases the output. So
100%.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of teams, I'm just going to be real frank about this. Like, there's a lot of teams that are making a lot of empty promises. What can we say? We all know that, right? Right now, in the whole election period, which I really just have to say, it kind of brings out the worst in us, you know, because we're all just sort of fighting for votes and trying to one up each other and everything like that. And that's just sort of like inherent in an election / competition, you know, like it is. But really, like, we all need to be working together. Like, it's, you know, what I'm hoping is that with the election sort of driving certain aspects apart now, this can be the system that sort of brings us all together, you know. And
yeah, I agree. Oh, so
yeah, I mean, that's all I really have to say. I mean, this is the thing that can now get us into here. And so when you have a team that's making some somewhat empty promises, or, you know, doing a bunch of hand waving around, like, we're going to do blah, you know, security or something like that, you know, like, okay, cool, you're going to do security. What are you going to do in security? Like, how is that going to benefit the community? Like, what exactly did you do to improve the security of the blockchain, you know? And so this will sort of get people to be like, okay, we're sold on your hand waving. Now, what are you doing? Okay, how does that actually materialize into things that are going to benefit the community?
yeah, definitely. I think, you know, if we can get 50% of the top 22 in here, and then, you know, a decent portion of those below the top 22 in here as well. I know some teams that are, you know, like 50 plus, you know, they probably aren't going to do too much because they don't have resources. But, you know, teams from, you know, 0 to 40, if we can get half of that, that'd be 20 teams in here. But I think you're absolutely right. We're going to have some teams that, you know, don't do anything in here and they don't do anything outside of here. But,
and I think yeah, if they're not doing anything in here, eventually when we get this going and we're all in the same, and this is really working for us as a community, and now we can actually show, like, you know, people outside of the community, like, hey, you know, they're wondering about what's going on in our ecosystem, just go here and you can start to see all kinds of crazy stuff. You know, you can drill in and you can start to see task management systems like that. I've got 50 tasks in here, you know, and I'm really doing a ton of work, and this is how I'm managing my life right now, you know. And so this will give the people the observability that they start to need to feel comfortable that, like, hey, you know, there's a huge chunk of money going into decentralization. You don't need to worry about it being a complete shit show. This is sort of, you know, tracking everything on the levels that people need to feel comfortable about who to vote for and whatnot, you know. So right. Yeah, I mean, if 50% of the teams get into that would be a huge win. But then it also raises questions like, who's not in here and what are they doing? You know, we can at least give them a little column to be like, hey, there's some initiative that a team is taking on that doesn't want to be in Notion, which is totally fair. I'm not saying that everybody has to have everything in there, but they should have at least an initiative in here that links to a page that they're describing a little bit more about what they're doing, you know. And it's not just like this willy-nilly, like whatever, like they're doing security or whatever, you know, and there's like nothing there. There's no oversight into what they're doing and how that can maybe play into how the community is going to interact with that initiative, you know.
Yeah, you know, I'd be excited to also connect with whoever's on this team right now, because I think we're all of the same mindset. Let's do something together and share our knowledge. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, I have my email address there. BJ is my name. And again, I'd be also happy to really see how we can reach out to more people so they would join. One thing I was thinking is, as the initiatives um, get some traction, we can actually write some articles and say, hey, these are some of the initiatives um, that's going or that's happening right now.
What's beautiful about this as well is that you can have an initiative like let's take my initiative for instance, and I'm not necessarily saying that all automation is underneath my purview, but because most of our work is, this is where our focus is right now, so I'm basically assuming that we're going to be leading this initiative, but we're happy to work with everybody on it, obviously. But like, let's just say we have like a major advance, like, hey, I came up with a one-click solution that does XYZ or whatever, I don't necessarily want to be in charge of funneling that marketing into every single channel that we need to get that out there to amplify our ecosystem. So that could be like a task, like, oh, I've got a major release. I'm going to give an issue over to the marketing team and give them the right material that they need to start advertising the advances that we make. And then, that can be for every single one of these initiatives, whether it's dApps or anything, they can all sort of flow back into the different workflows we need to evangelize the work that we're doing.
Yeah, that would be great. Russell, right? Is that correct? Is this, what's your name?
Yeah. Well, I'm Rob, but Russell's on the phone as well.
Oh, okay. Rob.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I'm Russell.
That was Rob. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I mean, so we're also very open. I know we're all kind of experimenting with a lot of stuff, but definitely from the side of iBriz Iconosphere, we're very open, and we do have globally low-cost resources that we can deploy. If anybody wants to share ideas, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to some of your engineers. You guys have some good people on your team, so there's definitely something there to figure out where what you guys are going to own. Like, I can definitely break down this, like, for instance, this infrastructure automation. I can break this down into different, like, right now I'm just sort of, there's a lot going on with my code. I haven't even touched on that, and it's not really the point of this meeting, but infrastructure automation can be broken down into, say, testing or logging or different different aspects of it, so lots of opportunity. And it's really easy. It's really, really easy to move things around. Like, that's one thing I can stress. Like, you can just move this into, like, now I just moved it into the organization.
Right.
So, yeah.
Cool. This looks good, Rob. Thank you so much.
Cool. Well, I guess what I can do is, if you guys, what's clear to me is that I don't want Insight Icon to be like the team that's like owning all of project management. That's not really what we're trying to do. So what I can do is set up an account that's team neutral, that's like Icon P reps or something like that, and then invite everybody into that one account. And then we from there we'll just manage it from there, and you'll be able to create you'll have your own separate account, and then you can make different things public and then link them back into like a team directory page or something like that.
Sure. And aside from helping you with the framework that which our engineers are doing, if you want us to lead it or at least temporarily take the initiative, I'd be happy to work on the marketing side.
Yeah, it's just about figuring out what initiatives you want to be involved in. And I guess really the big question is, what are the initiatives? Like, this is all shooting from the hip here. Like I said, like I took, from the dApp stuff, this is stuff that I copied and pasted out of a chat with Russell about what he thought were some of the major overarching initiatives that would fall underneath dApps. But this needs work, you know. So if you guys want to brainstorm over what the initiatives would be, and then what teams would be starting to lead those initiatives, that would be the next step, I would say, because initiatives really is the, like, this diagram right here really is reflected in the tables, right? And so these initiatives will be leading down into the individual pages. So that's a crucial link that needs to sort of be established based on the key, like, of the name of the initiative.
Yeah, I think the high level working groups are pretty good. I mean, those probably won't change much. I agree on the initiatives. We just wanted to get something out there, so I appreciate you putting that out. So like I said, we just had a quick chat about it, but it's by no means set in stone.
Yeah.
And I see it evolving over time as things grow.
So should we just take a quick vote? Like, what do you guys think about these working groups?
Yeah, sounds. Yeah.
I think they are okay.
So within infrastructure would be security too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so inside infrastructure, security standards, security audit, infrastructure automation, DDoS protection. So I can give those a little bit more color right now. So like infrastructure automation is all of the infrastructure as code stuff and getting all of that together. I put DDoS protection in a different initiative because that really breaks down to more testing and doing load testing, DDoS testing, and things like that on different topologies of infrastructure. And it's not even necessarily related to automation. So like right now, we're deploying it. We have a Kubernetes cluster up, and we're running Locust on that. Locust is a load testing tool. And then I'm going to go, it's a whole workflow to get it through to the point where now I'm able to get the clearance from AWS to blast different endpoints and stuff like that to do our own sort of game of stakes. I don't know if you're familiar with game of stakes, but it was an initiative that another blockchain had where they encouraged their members to DDoS each other on testnet. And that's how they hardened their infrastructure. That's how they revealed different security bugs and things like that, and making sure that they were protected, right? I find that to be a different initiative because that's a whole workflow that needs to be coordinated with all kinds of different teams and AWS and GCP and all these different people to make sure that we get the clearance to do, to be attacking each other, right? On testnet, obviously. Security standards, has more to do with governance. And then security audit is sort of like the overarching, we have to make sure that we're all in spec. So these two might be the same, but that's sort of how I was thinking about it. Procurement, that was really just, I was thinking that's like, UBIK. I don't think this lines up directly. It's not like you have, I just thought procurement was UBIK, right? And then, yeah, I'm just shooting from the hip on all of this stuff. This is all copied and pasted over, but
what is procurement, Rob?
Like procuring different dApp ideas and things that we want to fund as an ecosystem, like
yeah, kind of like acceleration. So we put out a call for people to submit dApp ideas. Essentially, it's an effort for us to get the community a little bit more involved in building things, similar to the Icons Got Talent contest, but more focused on like on single dApps that we think would be cool.
Okay, do we have a, sorry, continue.
Go ahead. You can go ahead, sorry.
Okay, do we have a security editor for the smart contracts? Like, there was a team called Certic. Is any of them in contact with any of the teams?
I think they backed out. So somebody said that they had an investor backing them, but the investor backed out or something. So I don't think Certic is participating right now.
Okay, then do we have any security auditor for the smart contracts?
Doesn't sound like it. So maybe security audit would be something under dApps then. So there. Oh, and we would not be in charge of that. So just to let you know about what we're doing with security, like all the infrastructure stuff that we're doing right now is really to give ourselves the tools to then be able to do different forensics, which is really just like double signing protection and things like that. So there'll be an initiative, there's a different initiative that we're going to be owning that'll be very bespoke to forensics, very specific to forensics. So that might be different than the security audit of the smart contracts themselves. But
if you go back to the initiatives,
working groups.
Working groups, yeah. You know, so ICON has the DBP, the DApp booster program, and also EEP, right? I think ecosystem expansion. Should we categorize under that, or this categorization is fine?
That sounds like a good idea. I was just thinking maybe we should have a Google Sheet that we all share to kind of give our different ideas, so that it's not like you add the changes directly into the database.
Right.
So why don't I do that? I'll put a link in a page in here that'll be like, this is where we're proposing different initiatives, different working groups or whatever. I think we're pretty good on the working groups. I think I got that right. So but the initiatives I put no effort into, or very little effort. And so why don't we'll have a Google Sheet, and then we'll have a place where it's very clear where different teams can propose what they think should be initiatives are, because initiatives really are things that different teams are proposing. So we'll have, I'll put a little effort into that and have a little wiki to kind of talk about what the process is about proposing an initiative. And then maybe that can even, eventually when we have this all right, we can have like a governance structure in place where initiatives are initially proposed and then voted on and then approved and something like that.
So Rob, I'm kind of taking this a little in a tangent here. So with another, a blockchain platform, we're working on this concept of social mining, right? So how do you account for how much contribution, aside from just staking in ICX, what is the contribution of individuals, right? Or other contributions, like even, creating this, tweets or other working groups, right? So, and this could be down the road, but I see this as an opportunity to actually incorporate that kind of social mining, or almost like contribution mining on this, and then maybe request ICON Foundation for some sort of a incentivization, right? That could be worked into this. I mean, this is could be way out there, but it's interesting where now that we have people contributing, how do you encourage people to contribute with some incentivization, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a little bit down the road, because it assumes that we have a lot of the material somewhere to start to aggregate from. And so right now with only my team, obviously it's way too early now, but even as we get maybe the first 10 teams, and I'll be stoked if we have 10 teams on here. Like we all know the list of teams that are being voted. I don't need to bring up the election polls. We all know where we're all at and everything like that. We also know, I think we all know that there's a good chunk of teams that are completely absent from the community that are either staking themselves or they're just, you know, either empty promises or whatever, you know. So if, I'm just saying, like, if we get 10 teams on here, I feel like that'll be like a real success.
Okay.
You know, we can really start to then use this as a metric at that point. But before we get enough teams on here, it's going to be pretty tough to basically hold people accountable for not having done something in a platform that they're not necessarily engaged in, or the community is not engaged in.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Cool.
Did you get Rob? I think you said you talked to ICX Station. They're using Gyro right now, but are they interested in using this in the future, or?
I have not talked to them specifically about this. I mentioned that I'd done this, and they said that they were using Jira, and that's legit. Like, I don't want to mess with their workflow. You know, I'm not going to tell them, like, hey, move everything from Jira over to here. That's crazy. You know, Jira's legit. There's nothing wrong with it. You know, but
right, yeah,
it's just about like. It's just about, like, you know, how much they can, like, transpose some of their like, if they have a number of epics or something like that, maybe they can translate the epics over, you know, or something, just to give themselves like a little bit of observability over what they're doing. Because I mean, obviously they're an incredibly important team, you know, and I sort of put them, like, you know, just shooting from the hip again, like, I was like, okay, well, they should be sort of in charge of governance and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're definitely a very important team, and I don't doubt their contributions at all. The importance of them is they have a very close relationship with Icon too, so they can help a lot of those aspects. They've written a lot of the governance papers. Yeah, I don't think, you know, it's not productive to just add overhead and have people, you know, recreate what they've already created in other platforms they're comfortable with. But as you said, you know, if teams are using other tools, you know, if hopefully they can at least put, like, at least their high level effort, you know, so we can track it. Not really so much for transparency, but more just for, I think, collaboration. You know, from that standpoint. So.
Yeah, and also, I mean, like, they do a lot of work. I know that. It's just hard to find where all their work is, you know? So this would just give them a nice little directory of all of the different governance pages and discussions and things that they find important that they need to document, you know?
Yeah, I agree. This helps us all collaborate a lot better. Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, I think we're all sold. So I'll create a page for the initiatives that I'll link to a Google Sheet, and we can start filling in what we see as the initiatives. And I'll write a Reddit post to describe what we talked about, link the video, and start the discussion. And then hopefully within, like you said, Russell, like, a lot of this stuff is gonna, like, decentralization is the highest priority right now, to make sure that we're all ready for that. So hopefully we put ourselves in a pretty decent space so that when decentralization happens and we start to know what teams are where and everything like that, that we can really start trying to impress them to get onto this tool to start to show what they're doing. I'm gonna imagine that there's gonna be some teams that are not gonna be stoked to try to give some observability about what they're doing.
Yeah, like we said, you know, if we can start with, you know, 10 teams, that'd be awesome, and then, you know, just grow from there.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's shoot for it. I think
Cool.
there's definitely.
And I think it's partly the onus is on us to also show value, right? Demonstrate value.
Yeah.
Then more and more people will join.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even between the people that we have on this call right now, like, if it's only even like 3-4 teams, and I'm sure we can get 3, 4, 5 teams on here. You know, if we have 3, 4, 5 teams that are all showing, like, hey, we're all working together. This is like the core group. This is all the people who are really doing things. you know, so on and so forth. It's people are gonna feel left out if they're not contributing to this platform, you know. So I think it's up to some of the early adopters, us on this call, and a couple other teams that we know are very active to start to engage on here. And I think there'll be a network effect, and we'll get it all going.
Yeah, I agree. That was a good point, BJ, too. Like, yeah, it's got to show value. If we're just doing this to, you know, just to make teams look good or things like that, but it's not actually providing value, then, you know, then it's a waste. And, you know, it might help teams get more votes, but overall it's not going to help Icon. But I think it will definitely help Icon a lot. So yeah, thanks Rob for setting us up and showing us. I DM'd you my I used a different email address for my Notion account, so whenever you set that up, just feel free to add me. And
yeah, I'll do that this afternoon. I'll invite everybody this afternoon. I'll establish a new account that'll be brand team neutral, and we can start going from there.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of value, by the way, in just like some of the if you're on here and you're doing stuff, there's no matter what going to be value. There's value in that you're now telling people what you're doing. There's value in that you now have a place to actually track tasks. I mean, this organized, like we had a different project management solution going on before. We transitioned everything over into here, but this is this is massively valuable for me to be able to understand what the hell I need to do. There's just so many complex things that are complex blockers and all kinds of stuff like that, you know. This is huge for me. So this will all be public. Everybody doesn't need to be tracking tasks this way, but you know, everybody should have a Wicca to kind of talk about, like, okay, well, here is the value. This is the thing, you know, we discovered this and now we're going to evangelize this best practice in the community. Like, I don't see how this is definitely going to create value, you know, for the teams who are actually using it and engaged in all of this. You know, but it's just about how much level of detail you actually want to show. All right, cool. All right, well, if that's it, I think we can pretty much end the call on that note, unless there's anything else that anybody wants to talk about.
No, Rob, I do want to talk to you separately about how we can be more helpful on the framework side and how things are. But
yeah, sure.
Yeah, we don't have to do it with everybody here.
Yeah, totally. We can. You want to take that one offline or?
Yeah, offline.
All right.
Unless people want to join, but
yeah,
best done offline.
I mean, this is all recorded right now, and I'm going to post it on YouTube. So I don't know if you want to have that happen with what we talk about. So let's just sort of end it, and we'll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be more. Yeah.
Cool.
Offline.
All right. Sounds good. Well, yeah.
Catch you all later. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take care. All right. Bye.
Well, thank you. Okay, guys. Bye.
Take care.